Hello and welcome to this edition of In Conversation. I am Ashwini Mishra, Editor Technology at ET Insights. And joining me today is Avinash Joshi, CEO of NTT India, as we discuss sustainability and tech for good and how NTT as a company is moving towards a carbon neutral and energy efficient future. Avinash, welcome to this conversation.
Thank you, Ashwini. Pleasure to be here.
Businesses are waking up to sustainability in a big way. Enterprises have started to look at their businesses from a sustainability lens, if I may call it so. They have understood the challenges to sustainability and inclusion. All these are large and urgent. But before we discuss how, as a company, NTT is moving towards becoming a sustainable, carbon neutral, and energy efficient enterprise, let's hear from you in terms of what does sustainability mean to your business across the environmental, social, and governance dimensions, and how do you see this evolving over the years?
Oh, sure, Ashwini. And I will share both we as a company entity's view and a little bit of my own personal color to that as well. Time, I think, has come for us not to look at sustainability just as a topic to tick mark. As a corporations all over the world, this is something which we ought to take it a lot more seriously. We ought to go beyond just the tick mark and an annual report and actually get down to doing something about it in terms of solutioning. And even within that, I think as a technology company, my personal feeling is that we both have an obligation to make a difference, and also we are capable of making difference as a technology company. And I here speak for not only entity as a company, but I think for a wider industry as such, right? Coming back to specifically entity, we have gone on record publicly to say that by 2030, our operations will become net neutral across the board. So and 2030 is not very far, given where we are today. And we also have gone on record to say that by 2040, we want to become net neutral across the entire end-to-end supply chain and operations and everything else, right? So I think these are the two very specific goals, measurable, and we are really putting that stake in the ground there, saying that not only we are going to have conversations around sustainability, but also we are going to measure ourselves against a very tangible number. And I feel very confident that I think as a group, given the focus what we have, in today's in the entity world, there are two conversations we always start with any leadership team meeting. One is cybersecurity, and second is sustainability. At a very senior level, we have a chief risk and sustainability officer appointed. There is a portion of technology which we want to work with our partners to make sure that we bring the solutions for sustainability. But also I think culturally we want to encourage people so that people are well aware. We take specific actions. Like for example, we offer our employees 3 days per annum as a sustainability leave, which means they can take that 3 work days off and actually work on a cause which is closer to their heart, but in the area of sustainability. At least I have not come across anybody saying that take some time off and work on your passion, which is helping sustainability. So there are two aspects, right? One is the measurement aspect, and therefore there are very specific goals based on the United Nations Sustainability Development Goals. But also I think how do you make a difference by involving everybody culturally? And then I think, the process will be much more smoother. So that's broad, the thought process.
Very interesting, Avinash. Yes, I'm not aware of any company, giving 3 days of leave, and but you should be working on those areas which are necessary. And rightly said, cybersecurity again is a key component along with sustainability. Yes, both are at the top of the corporate agenda. Another point that you mentioned was, sustainability should be a part of the overall culture. It should be at the heart of the decision making and not an afterthought. So that's again very important. Tech for good is something that enterprises are looking at. Again, they want to create a social impact. and most often than not, technology comes in and is the solution that can help them create that impact. How are you envisioning and believing in Tech for Good? Any initiatives that you've taken? If you could cite an example.
I mean, number of, but first of all, right? I mean, in a way, tech for good and sustainability are actually interconnected. I mean, part
Yes.
of being tech for good would mean that you would focus on sustainability, right?
Right.
But sustainability itself is a topic. But coming back to the tech for good, right? I mean, technology always, and like most of the cases, most of the things in life, I mean, technology can be a two-edged sword. So it all depends on for what purpose you want to leverage the technology. And cybersecurity is a great example. I mean,
Right.
there is a hacking and then there is an ethical hacking. And how do you make sure that the technology is leveraged for the good purpose rather than the not so good purpose, right? So like I mean, we run managed security operations across the continents and have tremendous amount of experience, the amount of threats and the threat intelligence what we do, and then how do we utilize that information, how do we leverage that information across the board to make sure that the good take or good folks get an advantage is one important aspect, right? Similarly, I think I mean, let's look at what we are doing with wind energy and solar energy. So how can you use technology to leverage those avenues available to you to make a difference to the communities, to make a difference to the sustainability mission again, is another aspect. The third aspect about take for good, and I'll kind of a little bit dwell into the ownership of data again, right? I mean, in today's world, the amount of information gets collected about all of us, knowingly, unknowingly, intentionally, and unintentionally. It's not small. Now, again, how do you live? What do you do with that data, right? Our own view is that we absolutely got to maintain and respect the privacy of you and I. I mean, one is a regulation part, and that of course we got to meet. I mean, GDPR or all
Right.
the respective regulations. But also, I think again philosophically, we want to make sure that we the data is owned by individuals or the data is owned by our clients, and we really only process it within the realm of regulation and do not use that data visibility for our own monetization benefit, right? I mean, that's the business model. And so as a result, I think we are also very cautious because as our services organization, when we manage a lot of clients environment, we are very careful about making sure that we remain within the realm of that and respect the privacy. So I would say take for good, one is how it is interconnected with the sustainability, and then the second is the data privacy. Now the third thing is about innovation. And I mean, today there are two specific projects we as entity group working on. One of them is what can we do to look at the marine life, and there are certain types of algae who actually has a capability of trapping more carbon dioxide.
Right.
So can you do something technologically so that you start growing them much faster? I mean, come to think of it, I mean, in India we have such a vast coastline. I mean, in Bombay where I live, Mumbai where I live, I mean, we have such a big mangrove uh, life. What can we do so that we use that natural benefits available? What can we use as a technology to enhance that so that we make a change in the climate, right, in terms of trapping more carbon dioxide? That's one way of technology for good. The other technology for good is right now we are working on a research project, all photonic network. Now that will, I mean, that is not yet production in the production, but when that happens, it has a tremendous ability to reduce your power consumption per average call which is being made. I mean, today what you and I speak right now, what we are speaking, it is consuming certain energy.
Right.
If you really go all photonic all the way till your chips and motherboards, then it will significantly reduce the carbon, reduce the power consumption, right? So that's another way, example of technology for good. I would say.
Very interesting. So quite interesting to know that One, again, you touched upon the data privacy piece, which is again very important, and then the energy conservation. So well, you mentioned about the wind and the solar energy thing, Avinash. So how are you utilizing? Is there any utilization as of now?
Oh, yes, 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 very much. I mean, globally, of course, yes, but even locally, I mean, in India, for our data center business, we have our own captive solar plant, I think roughly about 50 megawatt capacity.
Right.
And we also have our own wind energy. So solar is in Maharashtra, wind energy is in Karnataka. That capacity is about 20, but that's getting enhanced. So we are right now using these two renewable energies, for our own data center business. And we have that commitment that, I mean, today maybe, our data center uses maybe 65-70% renewable energy. We want to go to 100% of renewable energy for our data center business in the near future. But the examples I'm giving you, they're not like some just global examples. And I'm
Right.
telling you that in India, locally here, we already have embarked on that journey, that we have our own solar plant and we have our own wind energy plant, so that helps us for our data center business.
Right, Avinash. So, really, really nice to know these things and the efforts that you've been taking as an organization. One question that I had was, while we are, and this is a journey, right? So we can't be sustainable right away. How important it is to review these investments and the measures, because that's very important to ensure it has a positive impact. And it's not one time or one off kind of an initiative.
Oh, that's right. I mean, look, I think first of all, in principle, right, we got to get the balance right. Many times, I think the pendulum swings in one particular fashion, and then unintentionally we end up making a harm to the communities or the local environment or whatever, right? So constantly, I think we got to make sure that we are maintaining the balance. I mean, and this is where my personal views also is that, see, at the end of the day, I think we all got to also think about, it's not it's not it's not important only to use alternate sources of energies or alternate measures to bring down the carbon emission or the climate change, but also can we really look at consuming everything less?
Right.
And I mean, simple example is, and we did this project 2 weeks ago, that can we just think about extending, let's say, a life of a laptop rather than refreshing that laptop every third or fourth year? Can we
Right.
just can we just look at extending that to 5 years? So to that extent, then we are going to procure less number of laptops, and that is going to have a lot more impact on the circular economy, because
Right.
so now how do you get the right balance of the old laptops consume certain power, the new laptops consume lesser power, but what's the point at which you really want to change? Because when you buy a new laptop, you're actually putting a pressure on the earth. I mean, the mining and materials and everything else, right? So our view is that, a it's a continuous journey. Every time you got to step back and then reassess that what we have done, is that good enough or not? Is that really giving you the intended result? And if not, then what's the course correction? And this whole laptop example is a great example, right? I mean, how do you use that? And it's probably the simplest form, but I think all these small things will add to the entire effect what we want to achieve ultimately, right?
Absolutely, Avinash. So you touched upon the balance piece, and there is other balance that I would want to get your insights on, Avinash. Investments and achieving sustainable impacts. There is, well, I've been talking to some CEOs. They are a little bit apprehensive, because they don't see the investments translating into the efforts towards sustainability. So, is there a dilemma there, or being profitable and at the same time being sustainable?
Oh, absolutely no dilemma. Absolutely no dilemma. I mean, I from where I sit, and I think that's the advantage of being in a technology company, that we can we can very clearly see a direct relationship of taking measures for sustainability ultimately translating into a good business.
Right.
Okay. And the
You've seen that
good,
happen.
oh yes, oh yes, yes. And let me define what is good business. I mean, the good business is, of course, being profitable. Good business is, of course, giving best of the best experience to clients. Good business is, of course, giving best of the best experience to employees. Good business is, of course, giving something back to the community, to society, right? So good business is not only not only remaining profitable or making more and more profit, but good business is a sum total holistic approach of all these things, and they all are interrelated, right? I mean,
Right.
unless until you have happy clients, happy employees, you are really doing something as a corporate social responsibility, not because of some regulation, but because you genuinely want to do something. You know, it ultimately translates back into profit. So I don't see a dilemma. Now, what may happen for that in the given cycle at that point in time, you may have to decide, what's more important and what requires more focus.
Right.
But if you look at it as a journey over a period of time, then there is no dilemma. I mean, I think, in fact, I just think that had we realized this, 25 years ago, we would not have such a
Such a
you know
situation.
weird climate where suddenly you get unseasonal rains, and then they destroys the crops, and then that creates pressure on economy, and then it's a circular economy, right? I mean, ultimately. So I think we got to go beyond.
Beyond.
Yeah, and that's why I mean that the EH is not about just writing something only in annual report. I think it is about creating that as a culture, and involving everybody. If
Everyone.
you do that, then I guess then it
Right.
won't be a
Just
dilemma.
touched upon the involving everyone. So, are you also going beyond your four walls, Vidash? So enabling the ecosystem, which work together with you.
Yeah, number of different things. I mean, one is we are working with our partners in the technology space, to look at, like, for example, can you start monitoring at minimum, right? Because
Right.
once you start monitoring and measuring, then you'll do something about bringing it down, right? so
Right.
so there is this area of technology partners we are working with in the ecosystem. I mean, very encouraging, but clients are coming forward and then saying, can you do something together? Right. I mean, I made this request some time ago in a public forum to say that, look, all the CIOs and CTOs, when they are choosing partner, please have some rating criteria for the sustainability measures. Because
Right.
if as a consumer, as a demanding the technology, if you start driving the behavior, the rest of the economy will
Impact.
start falling.
Yes.
Because now, if not for anything else, because it is making a business sense,
True.
the companies will start, right? So I think we require media to you know propagate this, and we require analysts to come and tell that. I think this is something which we really uh, owe to everybody, quite honestly. And the other part is that the problem is such a big problem that no one company, no one government, no
And
one
solve it on
organization
your own.
can do. I mean, we all will have to work together, to make sure that it becomes a lot broad.
No, I guess you made a very valid point there, Avinash. Yes, CIOs are in fact, ensuring that these
Right.
ESG practices, when they deal with their partners, those are
Right.
there in place. But yes, it's an ongoing process that way. Avinash, I'm through with the questions. Just in case if I've missed out any points or something that you would want to specifically talk about, please feel free to do so.
I mean, I'm just thinking that uh, one aspect of sustainability has not been at least talked about, or at least I have not come across. But we probably will require specific skills, specific skills in terms of how to deal with this, and where the real problems are, and how do you start thinking about what can you do to be smart about consuming less. uh, like for example, right? I mean, I'm just thinking that there is there is not enough work yet being done um to demonstrate that you really have to have this type of skills so that you can actually educate the clients. I think we are still in an education phase.
Sorry to interrupt, Avinash. What would be the skills here? So if you could just elaborate on that.
How do you measure the CO2 equivalent?
Okay, okay.
And what's even the source for that? I
Right.
mean, what's the difference between methane gas and when you have CO2 and then that small e on top of that, what does it mean?
Right.
And what are the, okay, for example, what are different areas they contribute to the greenhouse gas effect?
Right.
And then can we now, so I think that whole education across policymakers, organizations, I mean, they probably will require, I'm thinking that they probably will require some kind of a consulting. I mean, consulting not to get a consulting business, but consulting as a genuine advice.
Right.
And where do you get those people who actually come as a genuine consultants and advisors without keeping just the business interest? I mean, that probably will follow in any case, but that's
Right.
not the point. So I think you need that as a vocabulary and a knowledge. And I just think that particular aspect, that how does that impact, how much? I mean, take example of, let's say, EV, right? So EV is going to need a lot of batteries. Now,
Right.
where do you get batteries from? I mean, batteries you're going to get it probably from mining. Now, if you're going to consume a lot of energy and power, which is conventional there, then in a way, have you really helped the economy or the climate or not, right? Now,
Right.
I'm not making a point to say, oh, therefore, don't go to. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that we all got to be aware how the circular economy works, and then based on that, decide what are the areas what you got to go and address, right? I mean, so I think that particular skill part is, I just think, is not yet talked about, and maybe we just require some dialogue in terms of how do you
Point well taken, Avinash. In fact, you have given me a good idea to write upon and probe people in this area, and
yeah,
I will do that.
sure. But yeah, I mean, that's something which came to my mind. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Avinash, for your time. It was a pleasure having this conversation with you.
Thank you.